Hello, my beautiful Disney friends. How is everybody today? Is everybody lovely? I hope everybody's doing lovely. So today I thought we'd do something a little bit more romantic. Since Valentine's Day is actually coming up later this week, I thought it'd be fun to be a little bit more romantic and do something Disney that is lovely and sweet. So I actually went on my Instagram and I left a poll there for you guys, and I asked, when you think of a romantic Disney movie, what movie comes to mind? And although there were a lot of different answers that I received, the one movie that came out on top by quite a lot was Beauty and the Beast. Now, instead of just sitting here and talking about the Beauty and the Beast movie that we know and love, I mean, this is Disney theory and history. Let's talk about the theory and the history that is in the original Beauty and the Beast. This tale was not as sweet as it is made out to be in the Disney version, and in fact the original version includes some really fun topics like bestiality, incest, and Stockholm Syndrome. How romantic does it sound to you now? If you guys are interested in any of the makeup that I'm using, I will leave everything linked down below. Other than that, here we go. Angela Lansbury was not joking when she said that this story is a tale as old as time. In fact, that is a very, very true statement. This movie or book and story actually predates any type of written articles. This is a story that goes back to when people just sit around a campfire and would just tell stories, and it has been passed down through many, many, many different versions throughout the years until it eventually became the story that we now know and love as it is today. However, the version of the story that I'm going to be comparing the Disney story to is actually the, oh boy, here we go, Madame de Villeneuve. I have no idea if I said that right. I'm sure I did not. It is her 1740s book of Beauty and the Beast that I'm going to be comparing the Disney version to, although there are multiple other copies of the book by multiple other writers. This is kind of the first adaptation of the book that kind of went on from there, but this is kind of the first real story that kind of brought Beauty and the Beast to the place that it is now today. First and foremost, one of the biggest differences in the Disney version from the book version is that the girl's name in the book is actually Beauty. To be quite honest with you guys, I actually really like this, and I'm not sure why Disney changed it. I actually really like that her name is Beauty. I mean, I get it. Belle, Beauty, it's not like it's so far off. I mean, Belle is Beauty, so I get it, but I actually just kind of like it a bit better. And I mean, for goodness sake, it's actually called Beauty and the Beast. Why wouldn't you just leave her name as Beauty? In the book, Beauty's father is actually not some poor and kooky inventor. In fact, he is a wealthy merchant. Now, this wealthy merchant lived with his 12 children. I mean, it wasn't just him and Beauty, it was him and Beauty and his 12 children. So, I mean, it wasn't, full house there. Good thing he was a wealthy merchant, otherwise, what the heck would he be doing then? Now, the family lived in France, and like I said, he was doing quite well. He was a wealthy merchant. That is until one fine day. He lost all of his shipments at sea. Everything was lost, thinking to be swollen up by the ocean. And along with losing all of his assets from these shipments that were going to be coming in, the house that they were living in actually caught in fire as well, and they were forced to basically pick up anything they had left, and the merchant and his family had to move out to the countryside into this little kind of dismal shack out in the country and try to basically live off the land. And the land itself wasn't doing very good either. It was kind of down and dying, and there was actually kind of like a drought going on at the time. Now, the family, although down on their luck and trying to make the best of living out on the outskirts of France on this, basically crummy farm that they were now living on, some good news actually came in that the merchant's one ship actually didn't sink. And this meant like he would be able to sell everything that was on there, and he would be able to basically live the way he was living before. Maybe not quite as well, but it would still be a lot better than living in this, you know, crappy shack out in the country. So the merchant makes his way into town to go and collect his assets when he meets up with his business partners and actually finds out that his business partners had declared him dead so that they wouldn't actually have to share any of the profit with him. What the heck? Good old people to do some business with right there. Sounds like some great business partners. The merchant is obviously ticks off and decides he is going to take these men to court and fight them for, you know, what is rightfully his. So the merchant goes and he fights this, and he is eventually awarded, you know, some earnings for, you know, basically getting ripped off by these sleazy business partners of his. Now, although he is actually awarded some winnings from this, it's not a whole heck of a lot of money, and he's actually not doing a lot better than what he was in the first place. And the reason for this is because he had to pay his lawyer's fee, and he had to pay some taxes, and he had to pay this and that. That, my friends, is a story as old as time, right there. So it's been about 6 months now, and he is on his way home, and it is now winter time. So this merchant's on his way home, he's in the woods, he's actually kinda lost, and it starts to snow, and it's a pretty bad snowstorm. So he starts to look for some type of shelter, a place where he can just, you know, get out of the storm, stay warm, and not freeze to death. As he is searching for a place to stay, he happens to stumble across a castle. You know, as most people do when you're searching the woods alone in the wintertime. So he enters into this castle and he's shouting out for someone to come and meet him. Now, unlike the Disney version, no one actually comes out and meets him. There's no sing-along or anything like that. He is just left in this big empty castle. The merchant waits around for several hours before he decides that this is an abandoned castle and there is no one in it. So he starts to just enjoy himself. He starts to see all the treasures around this castle and he starts picking them up, and he starts creating a nice little loot pile for himself. The merchant figures that while he was robbed of his rightful riches by his associates, that this is the way of the gods rewarding him, that this is all now his and he is free to take it. Now, a part of the reason that he even felt that he had to take some of these riches in the first place is because all of his greedy little ignorant children back at the house made all these crazy demands before he left to go get his riches from his associates. They were like, yeah, I want a gold crown, I want a gold mug, I want a gold blanket. So since he was now returning with basically nothing, he felt basically ashamed and he needed to make it up to his kids. But then he came to the conclusion, no, my kids are whiny little children, and I only actually have one child who is very good, well behaved, and has proper manners. You see, there was one child who did not ask for anything. In fact, the only thing that she asked for was a rose. And yes, you guessed it, this child was, in fact, Beauty. So the merchant goes to then take the rose from the garden, and this is when the beast will now come out and make his appearance. Apparently, the beast was totally fine with having all of his riches taken from him and stolen, all of his gold and his piles of money. But when it came to his garden, that is where he said, no, you put that rose down, that's my rose, you cannot take it. I mean, I guess when you're a beast, you can't really go and spend any of your money. He must have passed the time by like planting a garden, so he was very protective of his rose. Now, this rose is not like the same rose as in the movie. In the movie, the rose is there and it signifies time, and every time a petal drops, it is him, you know, losing time and more likely to be stuck in his beast form. Whereas in the book, the rose does still have a meaning, but it's definitely not the same as it was in the movies. So the Beast catches this guy and he's like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing thinking you're gonna rob me of my rose? This is my rose, put it back. Now I have to kill you. You can't just leave, I have to kill you for trying to take my rose. The merchant begs and pleads with him and is like, please don't kill me, don't kill me. So the Beast then says to this merchant, okay, you wanna live? Fine, I'll let you live. So the Beast comes up with this plan and he says, fine, I will let you live. I'll let you live and go on your own merry little life. But you need to return with one of your daughters. I want you to return with one of your most beautiful daughters to take your place as my prisoner. And you would think, being a good father, he'd be like, nope, I'll stay here. I'll be your prisoner for the rest of my life. Nah, this merchant was obviously a pretty crummy guy and a pretty crummy father. Because the merchant agrees to go back and get his daughter and bring him back to the Beast. Oh, and the Beast also said, if you do not return with one of your daughters, I'm going to come after you and I'm going to eat everyone in your family, you and all your children. So the merchant returns home and he's telling his kids what is happening and what's going on. And he tells Beauty that, well, I need to take you back to this Beast now and you're going to be his new, housemate, prisoner. And you're going to live the rest of your life there. So have a good time. Be a good girl, have a good time as a prisoner. And I'm going to live my life because I'm a shitty father. Beauty was obviously very upset by this and she was not too happy. But she thought, you know what, I'll go. It's my fault. I'll go. Now, in step the siblings. You think they're going to be good siblings. Like, Father, what's wrong with you? Why would you give up our sister? Nah, turns out they're pretty crappy too. They were like, yep, it's her fault. She's the one who wanted a flower. We wanted gold. Maybe you should have just asked for gold like the rest of us and we wouldn't be in this position right now. So, yep, you go on your way. You pay for all this. This is your fault. See you later. So the merchant takes his daughter, drags his daughter to the Beast's castle and it's just basically like, okay, here you go, here's your new home, here's the Beast, he is the one who's going to be holding you captive and you have a good life now. And the Beast, actually being kind of the good Beast that he was, he doesn't just take Beauty, he takes her and he actually pays the merchant for her. He gives the merchant a dowry and was like, there you go. Thank you for your services. Thank you for dropping off your most beautiful daughter to me. You go have a good life now. So the merchant basically just carries on. He waves bye to his daughters like, okay, see ya. You have a good life now. I'm gonna go live mine. So Beauty is now left living in this castle with this Beast. And this is where the story is a little bit different from Disney's again. So in Disney's description of the Beast, he is actually taken after 3 different animals. So I'm pretty sure the animals he's taken after are like an ox, a bear, and a wolf. I think that's what they are. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Whereas in the original book version, the Beast was described as more of a reptilian type creature. He was described as having scales all over his body. He had a trunk off of his face, tusks, and the only hair that he actually had on him was like on his hands or like on his knuckles. So this isn't like the Disney version where it's like you see the Beast and he's like super cute and every time he transforms into his human form you're like, oh no, I liked you much better as the Beast. No, this version was like no matter what you got afterwards, it was gonna be a lot better than what you were looking at. The Beast was also not only just a hideous looking guy, but he was actually described as quite the simpleton. The way that he acted, the way that he talked, he seemed a lot more unintelligent than any prince would have actually been. And he was actually quite dull and really boring most of the time, so Beauty really didn't enjoy talking to this guy. I mean, I wouldn't enjoy talking to him either, but that's because he kidnapped me, not because, I just want to talk to this guy. Another way that the book really differed from the movies. In the movies, Belle had a lot of inanimate objects as friends. They were all enchanted objects, and that's how they were throughout their entire time at the castle. They took on the role that they had in the castle. Well, in the book version, Beauty did still have some friends, but it wasn't enchanted objects, no. It was actually enchanted monkey butlers. Yes, in the books, Belle's friends, or excuse me, Beauty's friends were enchanted monkey butlers, and they were the ones that did all of her bidding, and they really did everything for her. Not only was there a bunch of enchanted monkey butlers, but Beauty had her own lady monkey butlers in waiting. So anything that she needed that was a little bit more personal, if she needed a dress made for herself, if she needed to be washed, her hair done, then she had some lady butler monkeys that were her friends and would help her get ready or get anything that she needed. Again, I don't know, I'm kind of loving the monkey butlers. I think that would have been pretty awesome. Now, while living her life at the castle, Beauty realized that it actually wasn't quite as bad as she thought it was going to be. I mean, after all, she did have a bunch of monkey butlers that did anything she wanted them to. She did also have a library. She was able to roam the grounds. There was beautiful gardens that she actually quite liked. There was even one room that was actually full of parrots, and she actually really enjoyed this room because she could go in there, she could talk to these parrots, they would talk back to her, they would sing for her, and she actually basically had a blast inside of this room. On top of all this, she actually only had to see the Beast about once a day, and that was every dinner time. So every dinner time, they would go down into the ballroom and they would eat this fantastic feast that the monkey butlers made for them. The conversation was usually quite drab, but every night the Beast would end dinner the same way. He would look at Beauty and ask her to marry him. And Beauty was all like, nah, like, you're a gross beast, I'm not gonna marry you, no thanks. So Beast would actually get up at the end of every dinner and he would run off to his bedroom and he would cry his little beast heart out. Now every night Belle was actually having the same dream. Beauty, sorry, I don't know how many times I'm going to do that in this video. Beauty would dream every night that she was in this most beautiful garden and she was with a very handsome fellow. And every night the handsome fellow would always say kind of the same thing. It was something along the lines of, looks can be deceiving, looks aren't everything. You know, something that all of us people would be able to clue into, but Beauty, being not as intelligent as she is in the Disney movies, she didn't get it. She didn't obviously know what foreshadowing was. Now, after a little while in the castle, Beauty started realizing, hey, life around here really isn't that bad. I have monkey butlers doing anything that I want them to do. The Beast actually loves me so much that he does anything I want him to do as well. He basically waits on me hand and foot also. And you know, I get to live in this big, beautiful castle and you know, life's going pretty good really. And Beauty starts to find that she is actually starting to fall for the Beast. Now, all of us normal, sane people would look at this and be all like, Stockholm Syndrome going on. I think she's the one who actually needs to go to the psych ward and get evaluated, unlike Maurice in the Disney version. Another big difference here is that there is actually no Gaston in this version. Now, although there is still a villain, who we'll get to in a minute, there was no Gaston. In fact, in this version, there was just kind of like a lot of men who were interested in Beauty. See, in Disney's version, Beauty was kind of an outcast and she was kind of weird and no one other than Gaston liked her. However, in this version of the book, it was the farthest thing from the truth. She was absolutely beautiful and men were tripping over themselves to get to her. In fact, 5 of Beauty's sisters' fiancés gave up on Beauty's sisters to try to be with Beauty. So basically her potential brother-in-laws were like, oh no, you're a lot hotter. We want to be with you instead of your sisters. So after a little bit, Beast realizes that Beauty kind of seems like she likes him as well. Like things have definitely changed and she seems to be a lot nicer to him and just spending a lot more time with him than what she was before. So to kind of win her trust a bit more and maybe push things over the edge in his favor, the Beast decides, okay, I'm gonna let her go home. I'm gonna let her go home and go visit her family, and you know, maybe she'll just love me a little bit more, appreciate me a little bit more, and maybe that'll be what seals the deal. So he tells Beauty, okay, I'm gonna let you go home and I'm gonna give you 2 months. You get to go home for 2 months, go have a nice little vacation, hang out with your family, and then at the end of the 2 months, come on back now. That's pretty sweet. 2 months on vacation? Pfft, kill for 2 months on vacation right now. However, although she gets to go home for 2 months, he says to her, you have to come back at the end of the 2 months. If you do not come back at the end of the 2 months, I'm going to kill myself. I mean, that's so nice. That's so romantic. Like, you need to come home or I'm going to kill myself. That's true love right there. So Beauty goes home and she goes home, just gets to see her family. No one's sick or dying. And she goes home and she gets to be with the family for about 2 months. And she was really happy. She was happy to see everyone, happy to see her family and her father, which, I mean, honestly, I don't know if I would be or not. I mean, you literally just left me there as a prisoner. Like, I don't know how happy I'd be with that. But she gets to see the family and she's happy. However, after only a few days of being away from the castle, she realizes she actually really misses her life there. Now, I don't know, this could just be me, but maybe it's because when you're at the castle you didn't have to do anything. You had a bunch of monkey butlers doing everything for you, not to mention the Beast was doing everything for you too. So that could be a part of it too. If I had to go home and start doing laundry, take care of people again, I'd be like, nah, send me back to the castle, I'm good with it. Nonetheless, whatever the reason is, after a few days, Beauty realizes that she misses her home at the castle and she is actually missing the Beast, and she realizes that she actually loves him and decides, I'm gonna go back home to the castle and I'm going to finally accept the Beast's proposal. So about 2 months passed and Beauty spends the time with her family, had a good little vacation there, good little getaway, and decides, okay, it's time to go back and I'm gonna go marry the Beast. So Beauty gets back to the castle and she starts looking around. She's all like, hey, Beast, I'm home, I'm here. But she can't find him anywhere. And so she's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Well, she was supposed to be home within 2 months of leaving the castle. She ended up coming home 1 day late. So she is frantically searching for the Beast all over the castle, can't find him anywhere. And then she remembers one of those mysterious dreams she had. And she remembered there being a secret tunnel into this secret garden. So she finds the entrance into this tunnel and it does in fact lead her into this secret garden. Now on the grounds of this secret garden, she found the Beast and he was just laying there and he was dying. You see, what happened was just shortly after Beauty left to go home and visit her family, he realized he couldn't live without her and he actually stopped eating because it was too painful to live without her. Man, that is some kind of love or something. Stop eating because you couldn't live without a person and he survived 2 months? No way. I couldn't survive 2 days without eating. And dear Lord, even if I did, I couldn't imagine. I would turn into a beast. I would be a beast for sure. 2 months without eating? Nope, I'd be gone. Beauty is obviously very upset. She just came home. She knows she wants to now marry this Beast and that she loves him, and here he is dying. So she calls in the good old butler monkeys who come running in and they help get him back into the castle and they help nurse him back into good health. The very next day, they are sitting down at dinner like they normally would be. and the Beast again asks Beauty, "Will you marry me?" And this time she says yes. The two kiss and the spell is now reversed. But it doesn't stop there, my friends. Oh no, it gets better. So once they kissed and the spell was actually reversed, you know, Beast obviously turned back into a human, and he was actually quite a good looking human. So I mean, you know, score there. But again, he was a really grotesque looking beast. So again, anything would have been an upgrade. And all the stone statues that were scattered all over the castle and all over the yards turned back into the humans. See, in this story, all of the humans were turned to stone, whereas in the Disney version, they were all turned into magical objects. So everybody now turns back into a person, and they're pretty happy about it. I think I would prefer to be the stone, because at least if you were the stone, it'd be like you fell asleep kind of thing. It'd be like a Sleeping Beauty thing. You fell asleep and then you wake up, and to you it's like, oh, it's only been a few seconds. Meanwhile, it's been like a bunch of years have passed. So now we actually get to find out that the Beast was cursed, and he was cursed by a nanny fairy. So like, Beast's mom was actually alive in this version of the story, and she was actually a pretty badass woman. So the Beast's mother was actually called the Warrior Queen because she was the queen of this kingdom. One day, a fellow king from over there had challenged her to her throne. So she was like, "Oh no, you think you're coming over here and getting my throne? I don't think so, sir." So the badass Warrior Queen took her army and went off to go fight this guy. So she couldn't just leave her infant baby with nobody, so she left it with a nanny. Now this nanny was unfortunately very unattractive. She was described as older, and she was ugly. There's no other way to put it. She was ugly. She was not an attractive woman, and I mean, hey, you know what? Fine, there's nothing wrong with that. So this nanny took care of the prince from the time that he was a baby until he was about 15 years old. And she was actually a very good nanny and very loving, and the prince really loved her quite a lot. And he would actually refer to her as Mother Nanny. And this was all fine until the prince became of age, and apparently coming of age was 15, which I mean, I don't think that's right. I don't know, whatever. It was 15 at the time. So when he turned 15, he apparently was a foxy little fella. And so Mother Nanny decided that, well, you're pretty hot and you're a prince, so I'm gonna marry you. So she would repeatedly ask the prince over and over again if he would marry her. Come on, it just makes sense. I don't know what part of that makes sense. You're old, you're ugly, you're obviously out of your mind. Like, no. He said no. No means no. But she would not give up on this. She continued to ask him for years until finally he got fed up, was like, no, I am not marrying you. Get out. Now, this is where she would decide to go full cray on him, and she actually placed a curse on him and his entire house. So she placed this curse on this prince where it turned him into this ugly reptilian type creature. And the curse entailed that he would remain a beast until he loved someone and someone loved him in return. Sound familiar? You're like, okay, fine, no problem. He's gonna win him over with his personality, right? Not quite. Remember when I said that Belle thought he was actually quite boring and honestly not very intelligent for a prince? Well, the reason for that is Fairy Nanny actually also said, and on top of being an ugly beast, you're also going to become a simpleton. So I mean, that explains that part. He really wasn't boring and dull. He was just cursed to seem like he was boring and dull. So he must have been a pretty cool person if he actually ended up coming out and like letting Beauty fall in love with him, and he was boring and a simpleton and really ugly. Like, underneath of that, it must have been something pretty fantastic. After that, the bad fairy took off and a good fairy actually came in. Because, you know, where there's bad, there's also good. The good fairy came in and she actually taught the beast to survive. See, he was used to being a prince, but you don't get to survive as a beast being a prince. She had to teach him how to scrounge for his food, how to actually act mean to scare people off, and also how to actually act mean if he ever needed to make a bargain with someone. You see, the good fairy was the one who actually convinced him to plant this rose garden, let all these beautiful roses grow, so that one day maybe a beautiful maiden herself or some fellow would come along and pluck one of these roses and he would actually be able to barter with them. He was actually such a good guy that he actually really felt guilty having yelled at the merchant and making this deal with him. He didn't want to do it at all, but he knew if he needed to get out of this curse, he would have to actually yell and threaten someone. I mean, he gave him a stinking dowry for his daughter. He obviously isn't that bad of a guy. So everything's good. The beast is now a prince and Beauty is going to marry him? No. You see, Queen Mother comes in and she would not allow this. She would not let a commoner marry her prince son and become queen and take her throne. So the queen said, no, you cannot marry my son. Again, in comes the good fairy to let everybody in on the big bombshell. You see, Beauty was in fact not a commoner as she was led to believe. In fact, Beauty's parents were royalty themselves. Her father was actually a king and her mother was a fairy. Her mother was actually locked up for loving a human and spent the rest of her life in jail. And the baby that they had was actually left out in the woods to just die. The good fairy was the one who actually found Beauty and was actually trying to find her a good home to be raised in. As the fairy was trying to find her a home to be raised in, she actually came across the merchant's house. The merchant was very upset because his youngest daughter was actually in bed dying. She was very, very sick and he was very concerned for her. The fairy actually went to go save the child but was too late. So instead, she swapped the child out. So Beauty was actually a changeling. Has anyone watched Fate? I just watched it this week. It was so good. Really liked it. Can't wait for the next season. But to make this a little weirder for all of us commoners out here, the fairy let everybody know that Beauty's father was in fact the elder brother of the warrior queen. That would make the warrior queen her aunt and the beast her first cousin. Yep, that's right, incest too. So Beauty and the beast were actually married. They spent the rest of their lives traveling around the world, having a good old time, and only every once in a while would stop back at the castle and laugh about how their love affair started. Hey, remember when you bought me from my father and you kept me held prisoner here? Hey, remember we found out that you were actually my first cousin? Ah, those were good old days. And they lived happily ever after. Well, my friends, that is the very romantic story of Beauty and the Beast. I mean, it has it all. It's a love story, it's a lost story, it's a Stockholm story, it's incest, it's got a bit of everything for everyone. I mean, I definitely see why Disney changed it up. I couldn't imagine them leaving it like that. I really think the incest part would be the worst part of it. I mean, it's all pretty bad, but whew, that is the real story. Let me know, how romantic is that to you? All right, so here's my look. This is definitely my Valentine's Day inspired look. But I mean, you could definitely wear it, whatever. This could be just hanging out around the house, or I don't know, do we do anything else nowadays other than hang out around the house? So let me know what you think of this story. Are you still in love with the whole Beauty and the Beast thing? I mean, what do you think? I mean, a lot of you thought it was very romantic. How romantic is it now? All right, my beautiful Disney friends, that does it for me. No matter what you guys are doing, I hope you're having an absolutely magical day, and I will talk to you all real soon. Bye!